Hello and welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 2, where we are exploring our galactic origins and becoming multidimensional. I'm your host, Waxela Sananda, and today it is truly my pleasure to introduce to you someone that I'm just so excited to have on this show. Welcome, Patricia Cota-Robles.
Well, thank you, Waxela. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. I want to kind of share a little bit from what you're all about. And for many of the viewers, you are certainly not new because you have been doing this work since 1968. You shared with me in a previous conversation. So truly, Patricia is a way shower and a leader of this whole spiritual movement that we're in. And I'm so grateful for that. Patricia is co-founder and president of the nonprofit educational organization Era of Peace, which sponsors her work and the annual World Congress on Illumination. Patricia shares vitally important information from the beings of light in the realms of illuminated truth. This information from on high is distributed for free through Patricia's website, which is eraofpeace.org, and we will certainly link that below. The divine intent of these celestial sharings is to give humanity encouragement, greater clarity, and understanding as we progress through these wondrous but often challenging times. Patricia's philosophy is every person is precious and divine, regardless of how far his or her behavior patterns and life experiences may be from reflecting that truth. We are not victims of our lives. We are the co-creators of our lives. Now is the time to create the lives we have always dreamed about. We already have everything we need to accomplish that, pulsating within the divinity of our heart flame. That's so beautiful. Wow, thank you for sharing that. And I just would love to kind of start at the beginning, since this is my first time interviewing you. If you could maybe just give us an idea of how this all began for you.
Well, I personally think this is a unique moment on this planet, and I think every single person in embodiment at this time has been preparing for lifetimes to assist in this ascension process of the earth moving in to the higher realms of the fifth dimensional new earth. So I think we've all been prepared. So what happens in the outer world is that we have catalysts that begin awakening us. And for myself, it began when I was really a very small child. I was born during World War II, so I didn't have a lot of that frivolity in childhood that a lot of kids do. And so there was a lot of fear and sometimes confusion. And so my understanding and my inner knowing from the time I was really little was that this pain and suffering people are experiencing on the physical plane is not normal, and that is not the way life is supposed to be. And I always had this inner knowing that I was going to be able to find the answers as to why that was occurring. And that quest took me through, of course, like everybody else probably, or many people, the gamut of world religions through scientific understanding, the research of the power of the mind and all of those things. And everywhere I looked, there seemed to be this thread of truth that indicated in one way or another that we are not the victims, but we're creating our reality. And in Eastern philosophy, it was the laws of karma or cause and effect. And in Eastern philosophies, in Judaism, it was more an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And as I say, we should have said an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hug for a hug, a kiss for a kiss. So we got the whole picture. In Christianity, it was reaping what we sow and casting our bread upon the water. And then in science, it was like attracts like, action and reaction, radiation and magnetization. And then even in metaphysics, it was the out-breath and the in-breath of God, the law of the circle. So when I realized that every form of knowledge, both academic and scientific, was aware of this physical principle that we're subject to in this physical plane, my overwhelming question was, if that's true, why are we still in the mess we're in? So I'd ask the religious leaders, and they would say, well, pretty consistently, it's because Eve ate that darned apple. And when you ask the scientific community, it's, well, matter evolves out of chaos by happenstance. And we just evolved from an amoeba in a mud puddle by chance. And there's no rhyme or reason for who we are. What is, just is. Well, none of that was fulfilling to me. So I believed that there was order in the universe and that God responds to our heartfelt pleas. So I began really asking and meditating. And after a period of time, I kept hearing that seek ye first the kingdom of heaven within, and all else will be revealed to you. And this is something that we probably are mostly familiar with, but I had no idea what that really meant. So I just trusted and I kept meditating, and pretty soon there was an awakening that took place in my heart that allowed me to open up and begin reaching into the higher realms of truth, where I had access to this higher level of my own consciousness, which we can call the higher self or the superconscious mind or our Christ presence. Through all creation, this part of our consciousness is referred to as our I am presence. And that presence has connection with the company of heaven and our Father, Mother, God, that all-encompassing, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, cosmic I am, all that is. And so I was able to start receiving information from this higher source. All the questions and the things, not just frivolous questions, but things fulfilling, that would fulfill my divine plan and help me, were being responded to very tangibly. And then one day I just had this epiphany that what I was experiencing was perfectly normal, that this had nothing to do with being psychic or channeling or supernatural extrasensory perception or special gifts that I'd been granted that other people didn't have. This was just our own ability that each and every one of us lost when we began using our gift of life in ways that weren't based in love. And as we used our free will and our creative faculties of thought and feeling in ways that weren't based in love, we started creating these gross mutations that reflected poverty and separation and duality and war, that created us to fall into denser and denser vibrations, which is referred to as our fall from grace. And when that happened, our crown chakra closed and we fell into such dense frequencies that we lost that connection with our I am presence and the higher realms. So we started developing this fragmented, fear-based human ego, and we started believing that the physical plane is all that exists and our physical body is all that we are. So we started having this fear-based consciousness that there's not enough, and we started hoarding and creating lack and limitation that then began reflecting as inclement weather conditions and plagues and famines and pestilence and all of the kinds of things that result in the pain and suffering. So when I realized that every bit of pain and suffering in the outer world is self-inflicted and that we have created it through the misqualification of our precious gift of life over lifetimes, and that we have the absolute ability to reverse that, to raise up in consciousness, to love that fragmented human ego back into light, and to allow our I am presence to take over and to take command so that we can communicate with the company of heaven, then my knowing was, if people just knew this, we could change the world. So my heart commitment eons ago that really began with meditations and reaching out in 1968 when I went on maternity leave with my son. My knowing was that I would be supported in ways that I would be allowed to share this information from the company of heaven in every conceivable way without a financial obligation, so that nobody would be prevented from having access to it because of their inability to pay for a seminar or workshop or buy a book or whatever. So that was my motivation, and that's going on now for a long, long time.
Wow, that is so beautifully put. Thank you for sharing that, and how, it's how we are creating all of it all the time. And it really gives us back the power to realize that. And I know for a lot of people, what we don't want to take responsibility for is the yucky stuff, the stuff we don't want. But when we realize that we created that and that we can transcend that, that brings our power back. And that's really what we need in order to be present in the new earth or the higher ascended frequencies.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things I'll share with you. One of my understandings that made it so much easier to accept the yucky stuff is that recognizing that we are sons and daughters of God, and our whole purpose and reason for having a physical third dimensional reality is that within this time and space continuum, we would be able to use through our free will and our creative faculties of thought and feeling, we'd be able to observe the patterns of perfection in the causal body of God. And then through our unique ways of thinking and feeling, combine those patterns into previously unknown expressions of divinity, literally expanding the kingdom of heaven on earth. So we had the free will to use our life force, this precious gift of life, every atomic and subatomic particle and wave of life that flows through our heart flame into the physical plane. We had the free will to use it any way we wanted to. So unfortunately, there was a point in time when we decided to start experimenting with it in ways that were not based in love and compassion, and began reflecting, as I mentioned, these gross mutations. But what we didn't understand is that even though we have the free will to use our gift of life any way we want to, this is our precious gift of life, and we are responsible for every single electron that we use. So when we misqualify it with negative thoughts and feeling and hatred and poverty consciousness and war and greed and corruption and every malady that we experience, when we misqualify our gift into this gross mutation, we send this pure, pristine beauty forth through our heart into this gross, distorted, battered mutation that manifests in the outer world as all of this pain and suffering. So through the law of the circle, this is what we are sending out. So it manifests all the discord in the outer world, and then it returns to us. And it returns to us bringing back all those discordant frequencies. Now, the universal law is that the energy must return to the source. But the catch is that it cannot return to the source unless it's vibrating with the same or a higher frequency of perfection than what we originally received. So if we're sending forth love and harmony and wonderful vibrations of light, this comes back to us, blesses us with all those patterns, and easily passes through us on its return journey back to the source. But this discordant energy comes back to us, and it cannot pass through the divinity of our heart flame. So it accumulates around our physical body, and it magnetizes other energy that's vibrating at that same frequency and manifests as all those painful experiences. And it's coming back not to punish us, not to create havoc in our lives, but to give us an opportunity to take that precious gift of life and through the divine laws of love and forgiveness, transmute it back into light, literally healing it and lifting it back into light so it can pass through our heart flame. Now, unfortunately, when we fell into these dense frequencies and started manifesting this fragmented, fear-based human ego, our ego didn't know that. So when these things came back, it would get angry and upset and respond with more fear and more negativity, sending out even a bigger cloud of negativity. So what's happening in the outer world now is that this is a cosmic moment. And because of this unique experiment that we are going through that has never been attempted in any system of worlds, never has a planet that's fallen to this depth of pain or suffering in the physical plane been given the opportunity to move forward this quickly in the light. So this energy is coming back at an accelerated, and this is from all time frames and all dimensions, since the initial impulse of our fall from grace eons ago. So what is happening is that humanity is beginning to remember, and we're beginning to awaken, and our I am presence is gradually beginning to expand through the divinity in our heart, so that instead of being that still small voice within, we are hearing through this intuitive knowing, this awakening, remembering who we are and why we are here. So as this light flows through us, it flows into the core of purity in every atomic and subatomic particle and wave of life that has our individual stamp on it, our electronic light pattern. And it pushes all the discord of that negativity to the surface and to be transmuted back into light. So this is the time biblically that was referred to as the time of screaming and gnashing of teeth. Does anybody have any doubt about that? I think. And that's because the light of God is pushing all the garbage to the surface at a greatly accelerated pace. Anything that conflicts with that light is being pushed to the surface. So all of the challenges and pain and suffering we're seeing in the outer world is actually the antithesis of the new heaven and the new earth that we are co-creating, and the patterns of divine love for the new earth, and the divine government that will govern us individually and collectively, which is a government of the I am presence, by the I am presence, for the I am presence of every person, revering and honoring the diversity of each person and their individualized learning experience, knowing that our sisters and brothers are one with us, and reveling in the diversities instead of being fearful and afraid and prejudiced and discriminating and suppressing and abusing and enslaving and all of the other corrupt and horrible things we've done to each other. So all of these patterns that reflect that old fallen consciousness are being pushed to the surface. And all we have to do is turn on the news to witness that very, very tangibly in the outer world. Mm. So now the I am presence is in a new place for us.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm sure everybody watching can definitely relate to, it seems like things have been way more intense this year than ever before. And really there is that, the stuff that's no longer serving the highest good is really in your face, I think, no matter who you are. And it's really nice to know, okay, there's this opportunity to transcend it now and things can move faster. So what can we do to, for somebody who's feeling stuck in it? Do you have a process or technique to help help that flow start to go faster, or help the person start to open up and release?
Yes. Mostly it is just a shift of awareness. You know, we've been beaten down and battered down and even manipulated by various sources on the planet to truly believe that this fragmented part of our consciousness, that we are worthless sinners and worms in the dust. And so we become who we believe we are. And so what is happening now is we are beginning to remember that divine self. So the beings of light want us clearly to recognize the magnitude of what it is to be a son or daughter of God in this cosmic moment. And so I'll share with you that, as I mentioned, the Earth is going through a unique experiment that has never been attempted before. Never has a planet that has fallen to this depth of discord and pain and suffering been given an opportunity to move through two-dimensional shifts from the third dimension through the fourth dimension, which has been predominantly accomplished into the full embrace of the fifth dimensional new Earth. And time and space only exists in the third and fourth dimensions. In the fifth dimension, we're in the timeless, spaceless frequencies of the higher realms of illumined truth. And so the reason that this experiment is so critical is because we are one with all creation and there is no separation. And once we accomplish this God victorious ascension, which we absolutely are in the process of accomplishing and will, and I'll mention that the beings of light said it has already been accomplished in the realms of cause, and we're just doing the final completion in the outer world of effects. When we complete this, we are taking our accumulated experience with us. And since this has never happened before, that a planet that's in this much chaos has been given the opportunity to move into the light, we are taking the collective experience into the realms of truth. So all of our experiences of the horror that occurs when we begin using our gift of life in ways that are not based in love, those incredibly painful, destructive patterns, and what happens, all of that is being written in the halls of learning and the Akashic records in the inner realms of truth. So the beings of light said, once this is accomplished, from that moment forth, through all creation, the sons and daughters of God will be able to learn what occurs if you partake of that tree of knowledge of good and evil. And all evil is creating patterns that aren't based in love, without ever having to experience that pain and suffering, because you will know better than to do that. So we are literally creating a new octave of godhood. So to answer your question about what we can do to get out of the mess, the beings of light want us to understand, because of the urgency and the significance of this cosmic moment on planet Earth, the whole of creation is focusing their love and light. Literally, the beings of light and the sons and daughters of God from galaxies beyond galaxies and suns beyond suns in the all-encompassing divine matrix of our Father, Mother, God are projecting rays of light on this minuscule little planet to assist us at this time. And because of the critical need for us to succeed, not one soul has been allowed to embody on earth that hasn't been preparing for lifetimes to be able to fulfill this facet of the divine plan. And the beings of light have said, for every one of us that was allowed embodiment, literally millions of souls were turned away. And that's not because we're more special or more evolved or more wonderful than any other son or daughter of God. It is because we were evaluated through our accumulated training and learning experiences. And it was believed that because of our strength and courage, that during this incredible, difficult, painful time, we would be able to hold the light and focus on the fulfillment of our divine plan in the face of all adversity. And we wouldn't get pulled into the junk in a way that would overwhelm us. Now, we still have the free will to do that and to allow it to overwhelm us. But what the beings of light want us to understand, we have every single thing we need within us already. Every bit of skill, knowledge, courage, strength to succeed God victoriously. And we can certainly join together and we can seek other tools and methods and all of that, which can enhance and wake us up to a different level of knowing about our growth. But they have said it is already within us, and we are being trusted to pull this off. And the beings of light have said the greatest privilege and honor of any son or daughter of God through all creation is physical embodiment on planet Earth during this cosmic moment. So the most important thing for us to do is to realize that we are naturally supposed to have open heart and mind, telepathic communication with the highest aspects of our own divinity, our I am presence, and the legions of light. We were never supposed to be weeping and wailing through our valley of tears through trial and error. As above, so below. We were supposed to be able to communicate in the outer realms. We go to school, we learn things, we ask professors and people with higher levels of knowledge and education. The company of heaven is just our sisters and brothers that have evolved to higher levels of knowledge. They're like college professors compared to us being kindergarten students. And there's all graded orders. There's all the magnificent beings of light associated with the various world religions. There's cosmic beings, ascended masters, solar logos, legions of angels from all graded orders of angels, and beings of light from the elemental kingdom, the mighty Elohim, the builders of form, the directors of the elements. Throughout creation, legions of light that are standing in readiness, awaiting to assist us, but we must ask for that divine intervention. So I'd like to share with you just a moment of what's happening now, but I want Waxela to go ahead if you have a question or something about this moment that we're in right now. I'd like to give you the opportunity, before I don't want to take up your whole hour, to share this moment that we're in at this time.
Well, it's why you're here, and it's your platform, and I love everything you're saying. And as you're speaking, my body, I can feel energetically, my heart center is pulsating and vibrating in my throat, and even my nose is just like what's this energy? It's really interesting how physically and energetically I'm feeling, or maybe it's receiving from the words that you're speaking. So I really don't feel like my question is necessary, because you're already answering every question as it comes up. I don't feel like I need to ask you. I just want you to keep going, and don't worry, you can talk as much as you want, please.
Okay, I just want to share this. This has been unfolding, and we've heard about harmonic convergence and the birth of the new earth and going through the shift of the ages. And what the shift of the ages is, I know that that was happened in August of 1987, and it was a 25-year period of grace that was building in momentum until December 21st and 22nd in 2012. And then we aligned with the galactic core of the Milky Way and moved instantaneously through up the spiral of evolution to a new frequency that allowed us to birth the new Earth. Now, there were all kinds of discussions about what the shift of the ages was, and most of it was focusing on the 5,125-year completion of the Mayan calendar. But the beings of light said it was a far greater event, that every so many millions of years, cycles within cycles within cycles throughout all creation dovetail into one rhythmic momentum with the heartbeat of the cosmic I Am, our Father, Mother, God, all that is. And instantaneously during that cosmic moment, our Father, Mother, God inbreathed all creation up the spiral of evolution to the next octave of our learning experience. Well, when that happened eons ago, the earth, as a merciful act of divine grace, wasn't able to shift because we had fallen so far. So our Father, Mother, God agreed to sustain us in the third dimension while the rest of our solar system moved forward into the fourth dimension so that until we could catch up. So all of this time and struggle has been trying to get Earth to catch up. And finally, it was time for another shift of the ages. So, and we weren't quite ready. So for that 25-year period, unprecedented activities of light, awakening globally took place on the planet. And on December 21st and 22nd in 2012, we God victoriously made it through the shift of the ages into the initial impulse of the fifth dimension, birthing the new Earth. So that has been building through every particle and wave of life, the old coming up to be transmuted and cleared, but the new also integrating for 7 years. So this year, we birthed a new decade, and all of the cosmic events, and everything is interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. All of the alignments, eclipses and solstices and equinoxes and full moons and new moons and meteors and comets and everything that affects the atmosphere and aligns with Earth opens portals and opportunities for more light to come into the planet. This new decade was birthed in the embrace of a powerful eclipse series that began on Christmas Day and was completed on the weekend of January 10th through the 12th. And it birthed us into a new frequency for this new decade. And the beings of light said that with the shifts that had taken place since the birth of the new Earth during the past 7 years, we are vibrating now at a frequency where we can have a collaboration of divine intervention from the company of heaven, who cannot interfere with our free will and cannot intervene without our permission. But the awakening had been powerful enough for the past 7 years that literally the floodgates of heaven have opened. And we are going to be now able to communicate and receive assistance from the company of heaven in ways that we have not in the past. And the beings of light said that with that eclipse series, birthing this new decade, that within this 10-year cycle, we are going to begin tangibly manifesting the heart-based patterns of divine love for the new Earth. And that during this time, the old patterns of corruption and fear and greed and everything less than divine love, all of the abuse of power, is going to crumble away and be transmuted and loved back into light. They said, we are going to be given this year assistance from on high that has never before been attempted in any system of worlds. And at the time, and I wrote about this in January, we had no idea what that meant. Well, within a matter of weeks, we started hearing about this coronavirus that actually created a shutdown, a forced timeout of the entire planet Earth, where every man, woman, and child on Earth in some way or another through their I am presence or physically in the outer world became tangibly aware that things were stopping and they were cloistered in their homes and all of the things in the outer world stopped. Now, there were people that had to have essential workers and certainly outer world events with all the medical teams and all of the beautiful people that brought our food to us and created our ability to eat and to pick up packages and to receive all of the things and assistance, cleansing the garbage, cleansing places, every essential worker. So this forced timeout gave the I am presence of every person the opportunity to begin communicating with their inner self. And during this time, the I am presence of each person in this forced timeout is preparing for a planetary reboot. And there are many things that have taken place so far. And I've written about them in detail through our monthly newsletter, I do a weekly vlog every week. We have meditations and things that I've been sharing. All of that's available for free on our website. So you can see the monumental things that have taken place. Some of them have been, just as an example, that the enslavement codes that were encoded in our DNA, that fragmented part of our consciousness, have been cleared. We've been connected with our new fifth dimensional solar strands of DNA, which is allowing our I am presence to activate within our body structure a new divine body template, helping to release and transmute the old fallen consciousness. Aging and disease and mental illness and decay have never been part of our original divine plan and was always part of our fall from grace. So all of those things have been moving toward this cosmic moment that we are going to be having, this planetary reboot, and we're still in the midst of this. So in the midst of this, we completed the most powerful triple eclipse series that the Earth has ever experienced. And it began on June 5th with a powerful lunar eclipse and a powerful solar eclipse that coincided, greatly amplifying the power with our June solstice and amplified greater energy to the completion of this on July 4th. So what took place during that time, the greatest need of the hour, is for humanity to realize the oneness of all life. And we can observe what's happening in the outer world, and everything in the outer world is reflecting that fear-based consciousness of us against them, the greed, the corruption, the abuse of power, the discrimination, their white supremacy, all of the imbalances, the things that are going on against religions and immigrants and all of those things on a global scale. All of that is part of that full consciousness, fallen consciousness. We are one, and there is no separation. So the most powerful events that occurred during that triple eclipse series was awakening within humanity the realization of the oneness of all life. That was completed on the 4th of July. Not by chance, the largest comet to enter our space in the past several decades, passed closest to the Earth, closest to the Sun on July 3rd. And the comet was named Neowise, and it began its journey toward the Earth. Now, I know scientists think of comets as being just dirty snowballs, but everything has a divine intelligence, even the most minuscule subatomic particle of light, and is divinely directed. What the beings of light have told us for a long time is that meteors and comets are guided to pass through, in our situation, the atmosphere of Earth, shaking the ethers, breaking down the crystallization of old patterns that no longer serve the highest good, so that they can be more easily transmuted back into light. So on the 22nd of July, we passed into the constellation of Leo, which moves in with the alignment of the star Sirius and begins opening the heart of the lion as we move to a very powerful moment that's referred to as the Lion's Gate, that is celebrated and has been from ancient times to the current time during the sun cycle of Leo. So the 22nd of July is also the celebration in the outer world of Mary Magdalene's feast day. So there's a lot of divine feminine energy. She is an exponent of the divine feminine, our Mother God, and assists our Mother God in bringing forth the essence of divine love. Those energies built in momentum until we passed through the Lion's Gate. Now, the Lion's Gate is a portal of light that is activated for this period of time every year above the pyramids in Egypt. And it consists of two majestic lions, the symbol of Leo, which is the heart center, the heart-based patterns of divine courage. And when you face the Lion's Gate in the heavenly realms, the lion on the west, or the left side rather, is the lion representing yesterday and the past. The lion on the right is the lion representing tomorrow and the future. And as we pass through the Lion's Gate and receive that light of the strength of the heart every year, we draw forth the energies of creation in the eternal moment of now, allowing us to release the past and create the patterns that we are going to be empowering for the future. But this year was different. This year, because of all of the things we have been through, we reached a critical mass that allowed us to ascend through the Lion's Gate, which is a multi-dimensional portal of light, into infinitely higher frequencies of the Lion's Gate than we have ever experienced. And when that occurred, when the Earth ascended through the Lion's Gate, the old gate was etherealized back into unformed primal light substance. This is a gate reverberating at the third and fourth and the initial impulse of the fifth dimensional frequencies that we've been blessed with until we got to this particular moment. That unformed primal light is transformed back into its magnificent pure light in the heavenly realms, sealing the old gate, and the Earth and all her life moved into the full embrace of the fifth dimensional patterns of the new Earth. This allowed the I am presence of every person to integrate at an atomic cellular level into our earthly bodies. Now, our I am presence has always existed in the fifth dimension. It has never stepped into denser frequencies. Instead, it projected a step down reflection of itself into the fourth dimension, which was called the solar Christ presence, and then into the third dimension, which was called the planetary Christ presence. But now those two aspects of our identity have ascended into the full embrace of our fifth dimensional I am presence. And that occurred through the period of time building up to the birth of the new earth in 2012. Since that time, our I am presence has been projecting minuscule fractions of itself, step by step, the maximum that we could safely receive through our physical, etheric, mental, and emotional earthly bodies. But what has taken place now is that collectively, through the ascending consciousness of the masses of humanity, and even though we look in the outer world and it looks like chaos, those fragmented, fear-based patterns of humanity's miscreations have relatively insignificant power over the monumental influx of divine light that's flowing into the earth through our heart flames in our newly activated 12 fifth dimensional solar strands of DNA and our activated fifth dimensional 12-fold chakra systems, which are now being activated within every person. So we reached a critical mass that allowed the I am presence to integrate at an atomic cellular level into the physical, etheric, mental, and emotional bodies of every person on earth. So now this I am presence is able to gently accelerate our bodies. And we are going to be able to transfigure our bodies from the carbon-based planetary bodies of the fifth, third, and fourth dimensional frequencies into the fifth dimensional crystalline-based frequencies of the new earth. And you know, when we talk about the ascension process, we know in these higher frequencies of the new earth, and even in the biblical talk of Revelations, they said in the new heaven and the new earth, there'll be no aging and no disease and no pain and suffering and no war and no poverty and all of the maladies, because those frequencies of energy cannot exist in the fifth dimension. Because the fifth dimension is a crystalline-based reality that vibrates at higher frequencies that these discorded patterns cannot exist in. So just to grasp the magnitude of what has happened, the old Lion Gate that still had a passageway from the old earth to the new earth as we were moving forward, that gate has been permanently sealed and etherealized back into light. Never again will the earth and the earth evolutions descend into those lower frequencies. And the I am presence of every person has integrated into their physical, etheric, mental, and emotional bodies. So now this part of us, we still have free will. So we can ignore that inner prompting of our heart, that divine guidance. But what's going to happen now is that when we try to act out of those old etheric patterns from our fear-based fallen human ego, the pain and the suffering and the greed, it's not going to feel the same. We're going to have twinges of consciousness, twinges of compassion, of knowing that this is just not right. You know, we used to have those feelings, and people probably still do, of the angel sitting on the right shoulder and the devil sitting on the left shoulder, and that being our conscience that tells us, yes, do it if it's bad, and no, don't do it if it's good. Well, that's really the kind of shift that is going to be taking place within us. And we're not going to be experiencing the elation that we experienced by greed and corruption because all of those things, the prejudice, the war, the greed, corruption, poverty, abuse of power, is all based in fear. And that doesn't exist through our I am presence. So they're no longer going to be making us feel safer when we hoard our money and make people suffer or enslave people to work for us while we're gathering billions and billions of dollars. That's not going to feel okay, but it is going to feel wonderful for us to take those billions and billions of dollars and add to the light of the world by assisting the masses of humanity to lift up in consciousness to fulfill their full divine potential and their God self. So now what is happening is we are just being asked to assist the masses of humanity to move into a frequency where now that their I am presence is integrated at a cellular level, and this has happened for every person on earth because of this critical mass and because we are one and there is no separation. We have collectively moved forward into this frequency. And even though some of them may be kicking and screaming through this activity of their I am presence within them, their I am presence is gently and lovingly loving them into a higher vibration where they can feel safe enough to know that they can let go of all of those fear-based things they thought they needed for their survival so that they can move up into the oneness and infinite abundance of the heavenly realms.
Beautiful. Wow. I just feel my whole body shifting as you speak. It's very visceral for me. And it's really interesting to feel that, the transmission that's coming through. I feel like, is so much more. I mean, the words are wonderful. And then there's just this energetic frequency that comes along with them. It's very powerful.
And that's exactly what's happening for each of us as our I am presence makes itself more tangibly known. And then the whole company of heaven floods us with their light through our I am presence.
So beautiful. I want to make sure we have time now to do you have an activity of light. Is that what you call it? It's loving all life free.
Yes, it's just a wonderful activity of light that the beings of light have given us that we've been doing literally for decades. But now, with the I am presence fully integrated into everybody, is going to be, it's moved to a whole new level of effectiveness and frequency. So if it feels comfortable just to allow everyone to join with us in consciousness and follow me through this visualization, and just breathing in deeply, going within to the divinity of your heart, listening to these words that have been given to us by the company of heaven, and following through this with the full power of your I am presence, your attention, and your divine intentions. Breathing in deeply, and as you exhale, just go within to the divinity of your heart flame. This is stated in the first person so that we can each experience it personally. But we are one with the I am presence of every man, woman, and child on earth. And we are simultaneously invoking this light on behalf of every person through their I am presence, who will receive it and utilize it in perfect alignment with each person's divine plan and their very highest good. I am my I am presence, and I am one with the I am presence of every person on earth. As one unified heart, we invoke our Father, Mother, God, and the entire company of heaven to help us raise every person on earth from a consciousness of separation and duality into a consciousness of oneness and reverence for all life. This is being accomplished by every person's I am presence in perfect alignment with his or her divine plan and the highest good for all concerned. Beloved Father, Mother God, we ask that you now expand your divine love, which is pulsating within the divinity of every person's newly calibrated spiritual brain centers and heart flame. Allow your love to flow through each person's fifth dimensional heart chakra until it envelops the entire planet Earth, greatly intensifying our planetary grid of transfiguring and comprehensive divine love. As this unfathomable influx of light bathes the earth, every facet of life is lifted into a higher order of being. Each person's I am presence now creates a sacred space in which they are able to open their fifth dimensional crown chakra of enlightenment to full breath. This allows each person to ascend ever higher into the awakened state of divine consciousness. As this occurs, multidimensional and multifaceted fifth dimensional crystalline solar light expands from the heart of our Father, Mother God into every cell of humanity's earthly bodies, allowing the I am presence of every person to take full dominion of their physical, etheric, mental, and emotional bodies at an atomic cellular level. Now, all is in readiness. Through their I am presence, every person on earth is participating at both inner and outer levels to this activity of light, which is raising the consciousness of the masses of humanity and assisting every person to shift from the illusion of separation and duality into the reality of oneness and reverence for all life. I now reach up into the infinity of my own divine consciousness. As I am lifted up, all of humanity is lifted up with me. In this frequency of divine consciousness, I see that humanity's free will is becoming one with God's will. The I am presence of each person now affirms, I am ready to love all life free. Instantaneously, I see the truth of every person on earth. I see all of my sisters and brothers in the family of humanity, even the most recalcitrant souls, as precious sons and daughters of God, no matter how far their behavior patterns or their life experiences may be from reflecting that truth. I perceive all of the painful human miscreations associated with my sisters and brothers as innocent primordial energy entering my awareness now to be transmuted back into light and loved free. I happily greet all of these children of God and all of their misqualified energy the same way my Father, Mother God would greet them. I greet them with love from within the embrace of eternal peace, detachment, God confidence, and supreme authority. Within an invincible force field of God's infinite love, I take my sisters and brothers into the kingdom of heaven within my heart flame. and I hold them in my arms of light as I would an injured child. They cannot overwhelm me or control me in any way, nor do I need to fear them or shun them. I simply hold them and love them until they surrender to the love of God, desiring on their own to enter the kingdom of heaven within the divinity of their own heart flame. Now, rather than feeling rejected and thus perpetuating their negative behavior patterns, my sisters and brothers feel accepted and loved as the innate sons and daughters of God they are. They voluntarily release themselves into the light, and they begin to know that they are one with all life. I rejoice that every person and their unascended energies are at long last finding their way home. And I release myself into the peace of knowing my I am presence is handling all imperfection perfectly. As these precious ones surrender to the light, they remember that they are beloved sons and daughters of God. With this sacred knowledge, they once again find their proper place in the family of humanity. In perfect divine order, they are set free to live and co-create the patterns of love, oneness, and reverence for all life on the new earth. And so it is, beloved I am, beloved I am, beloved I am that I am. Feeling this exquisite light secured within the heart flame of every single person on earth, giving each one's I am presence full access to their earthly bodies to reflect the divine love and the heart-based patterns of perfection, reverence, oneness through their earthly bodies. Feeling this energy secured, gently breathe in deeply and return your consciousness to the room. Inhaling, exhaling, and when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Thank you, blessed ones.
Wow, thank you, Patricia. That was amazing.
Well, you're certainly welcome. We are all so blessed to be here, and I am so grateful for you and for the light you're adding to the world through this wonderful series of seminars and this powerful activity of light. I'll just quickly say that we are moving toward the fulfillment of this whole expression of time out. And it doesn't mean that all the coronavirus and everything will be complete by that time, but we are working toward a planetary reboot, which is moving the Earth into a whole new timeline. And that will take place October 17th through the 22nd in October. And so all of this incredible activity that you're adding to the world through the month of September is part of that preparation. And there are infinite activities of light going on all over the planet. This is going to be accomplished. We have an annual World Congress on Illumination, and this is the 34th annual World Congress on Illumination. For the first time, it's going to be virtual instead of a physical event in the outer world. And it's going to be free and open to the world, anybody on the planet. We're going to do this, and we're getting it set up So you can go to our website, eraofpeace.org, and register so that you can have the information for attending. And we will have it available. It'll build in momentum for those 6 days. And during that time, the Earth will go through a planetary reboot. And the beings of light said the closest we have to describing that is what we do when our computer has crashed and fragmented and fallen apart. We reboot it, and it reboots into a whole new alignment and to a whole new calibration and reconnecting all the circuitry into a whole new movement. And that's what's happening as we do a planetary reboot into the fifth dimensional new Earth, which will be a quantum shift to move us forward for all of the events that'll be taking place this decade.
Wow, that's incredible. So I'll be sure to link your website with so people can get access to that. All of those, are they meditations or talks or?
It'll be, it's going to be live. That what happens is the beings of light guide us day by day, because what can be accomplished one day is contingent on how much light was added to the world the day before. So it's going to be a 2-hour event that takes place every morning. We're going to have it, but it'll be available as it's live at the moment, but it'll be available on YouTube immediately after that, so that people, no matter where you are, and of course we work in the eternal moment of now, so nobody has to be up in the middle of the night to be participating, but it'll be guided visualizations, and I'll share the information from the beings of light to accomplish whatever the mission is for that day, which will be the next step of the reboot. And then it'll be victoriously accomplished on the 22nd of October, the final day of the World Congress.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patricia, for your generosity. And you give so much and you serve at such a high level. And all of your content is available for free on your website, on your YouTube. You're so generous, and we all appreciate that so much. And just the level of information, or the quality of what you bring through, is so powerful and so high. Every word you say, I can feel it. And it's just amazing. So just know how much I appreciate you and all you've done for all your entire, lifetime here, and everybody watching, I know, appreciates you so much. So I want to thank you just from the bottom of my heart for all you've done and continue to do for us.
Well, thank you, Waxela. I'm so grateful for you and for all the wonderful people joining us in consciousness or on the replays or whatever. This is such a powerful time, and it is an exquisite honor for me to be able to join hearts with you. I am delighted and honored beyond your knowing to be able to connect with you in this cosmic moment.
Thank you. And to everybody watching, thank you so much for your presence. I think this is one you might want to watch more than once, or even I want to put headphones on and just listen a few times to continue to open up into this beautiful frequency. And I do this work because we are a community of light ascending together. And this is a way that we can all come together and have these experiences and know that we don't have to do this alone. We are truly all connected. And so with that, I thank you all. Please go to the Facebook page and let us know, how was this for you? What did you learn? What was your experience of that beautiful activity of light? And anything else you want to share. We're always open to hearing. And I love your comments and feedback. And so with that, have a beautiful day or night wherever you are, and namaste.